welcome to Liquid Lunch on a Friday. It is Friday the 20th, a week after last Friday. Right, Hildegard?
Yes, so it is almost Christmas time.
Well, it's coming pretty soon. We haven't had any snow yet.
No.
Or have we?
Well, up north they have. No, we haven't
Up
yet.
north.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But usually around the 23rd we'll have it.
Of?
23rd of November, generally a little snowflake falls down.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
They said maybe on the weekend it's going to snow.
Anyway, it's really nice to be here again with you, and we are talking about some very interesting things.
Yes, we are, because we have Teresa Scaini here to join us to start, and we're talking about NLP, which is, and we might even get hypnotized today.
Well, do you know what your anchors are?
No, I don't. I want to find out.
So we find out how to anchor ourselves for success and possibly anchor our children as well and help children that are extremely sensitive and may not necessarily fit in, we were talking about the round peg in the square hole. So anybody who has challenges with their little ones and want to help them, welcome to you. Thank you so much. Teresa is here to enlighten us. How did you get to NLP? It had something to do with your child, didn't it?
It did. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me this afternoon. And the journey began when he was about 3 years old, and I took him to preschool. And at the time, my husband and I knew that there was delays in speech and that he was highly anxious. So we went to preschool, and of course, all the labels come out, and the anxiety got much more prevalent as we went along, and this child didn't seem to fit in any structured system.
Now, let me ask you this. You said he seemed to be anxious. What did that show up at in your daily interaction with him? Where was he anxious? All the time?
So very attached to me as a child, and my husband said something actually that was really shocking. I had gone back to work when he was 18 months old, and he said, I put him for a nap at 12 and it's 5 and he's still not getting up. And his whole demeanor was like, I'm going to sleep until mom gets back. And that was his getaway. And he would do that through preschool, and it was pretty much with everything. I'm going to go to sleep, and when I get up, it'll all be different. So we could see that at that time that he was very anxious.
So he was anxious from being away from you, and then when he realized you're gone, he kind of didn't want to be conscious, he just fell asleep?
Exactly, he just wanted to kind of escape it. And then, of course, you're putting them in structured environments, in school, in preschool, sports, any of that was always a hardship because he didn't know what to do, how to do it, away from mom and dad, away from his safety zone. And so the anxiety is a frenemy. It's something they rely on because they don't know any other way. And when it hits, it's really hard.
So when he was 2 years old, he didn't have that?
He was very attached. You could see the anxiety in him. But as we started getting him out in the world, that's when it really, really got harder for him.
That must have been terribly hard on you to leave your child behind, knowing, he's going to sleep for the next 8 hours. Or
constant.
Did he cry? Did he make a fuss?
He would cry. At home, he was pretty okay, even with his dad and, with family. But he was still always kind of looking for me. But in the school system, it was very hard because he was alone. So the behaviors would come out, the tantrums, the crying. And at that point, when you put them in a structured environment, our society, and I can speak only on behalf of where I'm living in Ontario, is very label driven. So then we started the journey of therapy, and it just kept escalating to more and more and more.
So when did that confrontation with the structure, I'm assuming it's a daycare center,
yes.
When did what age group
he was 3. He was 3.
So that started that young?
Yes. And then, of course, junior kindergarten was insane.
But what do you do when your daycare? Just let me back up a little. So you have to go to work. There are certain schedules you as a parent have to adhere to. You and your husband have things to do, go places. So now your kid kicks up a fuss and daycare says what? Get your kid gone? We don't want him here anymore?
We were very fortunate that the daycare that we had him in, and the daycare really at that time, I worked weekends, so we didn't have to have him in daycare, but we put him in daycare so that we were hoping to break the anxiety, you know.
Get used to being with other people.
Yeah, and you don't have the skills. Really, you're walking in the dark. You're just groping. You don't, as a parent, they don't give you an instruction manual for it.
That is true. They come upside down, bare naked, without an instruction manual, right?
Yeah.
You have to make it up as you go along.
And so you're trying to figure out what's going to work for your kid. And everyone has an opinion. There's licensed professionals. There's people who are certified in therapy. There's all of these different people that have things to say. And you're groping and you're spending money and you're not seeing the results.
So you managed to get him to kindergarten, and then what?
Senior kindergarten was a lot more difficult, and I remember sitting in a board meeting with the board members, and his kindergarten teacher, who also taught my daughter, said, "I don't see anything cognitive whatsoever."
So there's nothing wrong with your child, so to speak.
She was referring to that he wasn't displaying any cognitive skills.
Oh, he couldn't learn anything.
That was her opinion at the time, and I remember my heart sinking, thinking, what? Because we would see a different child at home.
So he couldn't color, he couldn't draw letters, like when I think kindergarten, I think that's what they do.
Well, I think he was mostly in a corner, either kicking up a fuss or crying or whatever.
Pulling himself away from where he could have displayed cognitive
and not
activity.
Structured, doing what everyone else is doing.
Okay. So kind of going into his little turtle shell.
Or causing a fuss. And in school, we don't cause a fuss. So now I have a child who has displayed these things. I'm putting him in all kinds of therapy, doing all of these things, and we're not seeing the results. And that is what hit us. What do we do? Where do we go from here? What will work? I want evidence of what's going to work for him.
So what did you do?
It got me on the path of NLP. I had met a medical doctor who's a fertility specialist in the Richmond Hill area, who's a trainer of NLP and a trainer in hypnosis. And we were at a function, and she kind of looked and said, really? Because she was going by the label I had said that they thought was most appropriate.
You mean she looked at you?
Yes, we were at a function. We were at a social function.
Oh,
and
okay.
So she said, have you ever heard of NLP? And of course, at that time, I became enraged because I thought, here I go again, more money, more time, more energy. And she said, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, so please explain to us a little acronym, NLP.
Neuro Linguistic Programming. And the Neuro Linguistic Programming has many things under the umbrella. I like to call it anchoring of positive states. So that adage of waking up grumpy on the wrong side of the bed doesn't happen when we anchor those positive states. Releasing negative emotions from our past that are brought up from the unconscious mind. And I call it the H word because people are mostly afraid of the word hypnosis. But hypnosis is the most brilliant thing.
Well, I heard it said we hypnotize ourselves all the time to do the same thing over and over again and then expect different results, and that's why life is insane.
We're in trance 90% of the time. When you're reading a book and you have to go back and reread the page, you're in trance.
So how does it work then? How can we anchor ourselves for not being grumpy, like I had a really grumpy kind of
Yes,
issue.
both Hildegard and I could use some of that.
We didn't have. And yet we're best as a friend.
So the most powerful thing is to release those negative emotions from the past. And every single memory is documented by the unconscious mind. Whether you're consciously aware of it or not, it's documented. And I call it a little capsule. So if you think of a Tylenol capsule, if you were to open it up, inside is the powder. Very much like that. The memory is encapsulated and all of the emotions go into that, whether they're negative or positive. And most times we feel more negative than we ever do positive.
Because we were conditioned in a world that most of our experience we process in that negative emotion.
Yes, exactly. So that's what we do in NLP. It's called timeline therapy. We release the negative emotions that go with that. And once we've done a release, and as a master practitioner, I clear that. We do a cleanse every single month.
Wow.
Yes.
I think I know for sure that I need to.
It's the most brilliant.
Now, how does this relate to your child? So are you saying that there was a lot of negative stuff in your child's program that needed to come out? Or did the the person that you met in the social function and told you about it, did she imply that there was a lot of negative stuff in the parent? Because as a parent myself, whatever doesn't go right, I blame myself usually for my child having the issue. And
we project onto our kids.
Exactly.
Absolutely. She didn't necessarily put it that way. She just said, I believe you should look into this because the therapies and the strategies and the tools and techniques are very powerful. They change everyone. So at the time he was maybe about 6. She said maybe the timeline isn't appropriate yet, but eventually it is. And I do timeline therapy with children who are 11 and 12, and they can do it effectively.
Right.
The anxiety module is in timeline therapy as well, where we teach them how to deal with each anxiety situation that comes up. The strategies, breaking down a strategy, because we all play a strategy, whether it's the strategy of finding the perfect mate or our finances or how successful we are in business, we run a strategy. So it's a matter of finding the strategy. We know what the behavior is. What are they seeing, hearing, feeling? What's the internal representation? And the trigger point, what sets it off? And that was a big thing too. I could see as I was going along how to change that for him and have him change it. And that was unbelievable to do.
So it sounds like you educating your child as you take what's happening out there. For you it's out there, but for him it's internal. That causes a certain reaction maybe.
Absolutely.
And then the two of you could have a dialogue as to how he could take that power back rather than reacting about something out there.
Yes.
So that he became more aware of how he ticks, quote unquote, and then can be proactive rather than just being blown around by what's happening there?
Very much so. So with the timeline therapy I release with him, or do with. With an NLP, it's not a do to. It's not like you're going somewhere and someone's doing something to you. You're doing it with them. So as we release the emotions, we work on the anxiety, and also we stack those positive states. With kids, we do it a little differently. We call it the ring of power, where we have the ring follow them. And they're in that ring of power all the time. It helps with bullying. It helps keep them in their power and ground them. So we do that anchoring of positive states. And then hypnosis. Hypnosis has been my savior for myself and also for my child. To do a hypno session, you're putting your kids to bed every night anyways. You're reading them stories. You're getting into bed and, touching their forehead and telling them all the kind words at the end of the day. Why not speak in metaphors directly to the unconscious mind?
Oh, so you're talking about your child's in bed and you put the child through your skill into some sort of a hypnosis state, which actually sends positive messaging to the subconscious. Now, could you explain for people who really don't know about the mind, like I've been reading a book, you have to, How to Lose Your Mind and Get a New One.
I like that.
So maybe you could explain to us the difference between the conscious mind, the subconscious, the curtain in between. What are we using most of the time? I know you could talk on it for hours, but just give us a bit of an overview for those of us who don't really know that much about what the mind is, how it works, where it's located, is it in the head, that type of thing?
Yes. So I was one of those people that kind of knew I had an unconscious mind, but I didn't realize the power of the unconscious mind. I didn't realize that the unconscious mind was 90%. So what we hear in our head, I call it the chitter chatter. What we hear in our head, the dialogue that goes on, is really not, it's just what you're conscious about. It's not what's important. It's the unconscious. So if you look at an iceberg, you've seen pictures of an iceberg, you see the tip on the top, and you see the big vault underneath. That's how I've explained it to my kids. There's a conscious mind, unconscious. The unconscious, I call it, resides on the inside of you. It's where all the major decision making is taking place.
And yet I think I consciously make a choice to wear a certain sweater and do a certain thing.
To a degree you do, but the major decisions, if your unconscious mind has decided along with you, because it's heard it, that you will always be poor, you will always be poor.
Ah. I'll always be sick, I have cancer and I need to die, or I need to have my thyroid out.
Or I'm fighting, right? Then the unconscious mind hears that. So the unconscious mind also will protect 24/7. It's been told to me, it stands on guard for thee 24/7. It will accept suggestions that are organic, that are within your value systems and your meta programs. So when you're working with a client, I've had clients, they come and they say, I want to quit smoking. Do you really want to quit smoking? How badly do you want to quit smoking? Well, I really don't want to. Well, then I'm sorry, we're wasting time, energy, and money.
So how does the meta program fit in? Is this an aspect of the conscious or the unconscious? What is a meta program?
It's pretty much like the programming that goes on in a computer system. We're
Okay.
wired with them. Some of them come with us, and a lot of them we develop as we go along, our meta programs. Values and meta programs can be changed if you're changing your journey and creating the perfect you.
So then back to the child. The child, when he was 4 years old and had this trouble in kindergarten, were there already programs running
Possibly.
that he wasn't aware of, you as parents weren't aware of, the teachers certainly weren't aware of, and then out of desperation he acted out a certain way and didn't know as a little person how to explain what his needs were?
I'm not a psychologist, but I would imagine that that's the way it was. He came with these meta programs and didn't know how to handle the environment around.
You mean he came into the world with that, or
whatever,
right?
We all come with meta programs. We all move on in our journey with our meta programs and our values and all of that.
Yeah.
However, as individuals, we also make choices with what we're going to do with those programs.
So what did you do? Like, okay, so you met this doctor who was doing NLP. So, describe what you did with your son and...
I was very resistant in the beginning because money's flying out the window and you're hearing, the word should was lot, shouldn't,
Yeah.
all of that. I decided to go on a weekend. It was called Designing Your Destiny, and it was the intro to NLP. I was extremely resistant, very scared, and I took the plunge. And I decided to go with it. And that practitioner course, changed my life. I came back a different person.
That was over the weekend?
The Designing Your Destiny was the beginning, and then the practitioner was 8 days.
Okay.
Fast track course.
And so you have to deal with yourself in these processes, yes?
I was a bigger part of the problem too.
In what way?
I didn't realize that we were called to this. There's a reason for everything. So we're on a journey. It's part of legacy. So my attention was called to this. I also realized, too, that if I didn't change the way I dealt with things, it was going to be very difficult to have my child create change and to reach his magnificence.
So you're talking soul now. Like you were not aware of your soul self in those days, maybe?
Yes.
Like I certainly wasn't 25 years back.
I was up the crazy tree a lot. I wasn't coming down off the crazy tree.
Meaning what? Running crazy as in
crazy,
being busy, making things important that weren't? Or
and hallucinating. A lot of things we talk about are hallucinations, projections, things we think about. I grew up very Italian, in a very flamboyant household where things were overstressed, overdone, and I realized that.
So image focused, having masks instead of showing your real heart.
Yes, and vulnerability, and creating what I wanted and changing those decisions. Half of the things we deal with are decisions that we make. So that changed me, and then I went on the master practitioner where I really got to be better at hypnosis and honing those skills in and teaching him so that he wasn't going to end up a mess. And he's doing better. We still have days that aren't the best. We go through periods of time, but he's managing. And
so how is he now? How old is he now?
He's 9, and he's amazing.
So this is like grade 3, 4?
He's grade 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have some rough patches, but he is aware of his brilliance and his higher being. And I think I was telling you before we came on that I was putting him to bed about 3 or 4 nights ago, and I was stroking his head, and he said to me, Mom, thank you. He goes, when I was deciding to come to this world, I picked you. And I picked you because I knew you would advocate. And he heard the word advocate from me because it's part of everything I say. But I was like, really? He's like, yeah.
Where we talk about star children and indigo children and crystal children a little while back with somebody who talks a lot about the invisible world. And it appears that a lot of these children nowadays that seem to have problem fitting in the box have that soul awareness on some level. For a 9-year-old to acknowledge a mom that way, wow.
He's very spiritual too, which most children are. So he thinks outside of that spiritual realm, right? He said something like, let's go visit Nona's grandmother. I'm like, oh, you know she's at the cemetery. He said, yep. So we went to the cemetery, and as he got there, he said, are you still cooking for everyone back there, Nona? He goes, I know you're up with God. Like, little kids at that age don't think that way. And so I realized he's got his purpose and his journey too, and we're just moving forward with it.
Well, we seem to be stuck in the third dimension a lot, whereas these children's energies are more fluid, right? I remember in the reading on this one book I'm having on my desk now to read, it was saying that children up to the age of 7, all their brain is hardwired. Like the brain comes disassembled almost, like you buy a computer in a box with all the bits and pieces, and what the kids are exposed to, or the baby is exposed to, eventually develops the hardwiring of the nervous system. And the good news is we can change it. However, it takes somebody with your kind of awareness and patience to support a child to make these shifts and to recognize where the hardwiring isn't helping and how to undo it. I think they call it neuroplasticity. It's a whole new field of research now that we talk about. Now, but how do you help people? Like, so you learned this. Does everybody who has a child with these challenges, do they have to go and become a hypnotherapist or an NLP practitioner? How do you help people? What would you suggest if somebody is listening to us speak now and they're really pulling their hair, they don't know what to do with their child or children? What would you suggest?
What important?
Simple steps? Never mind what treatment, but what are some simple practical steps people could do to help themselves and their loved one?
The first thing I would say that changed a lot for me was stop telling the story. Tell the story of success. Don't concentrate, or I shouldn't say don't, because that's a direct command to the unconscious. Concentrate on what you want. Teach your child to concentrate on the journey of success. Have them see it, have them believe it, have them create it. It's very hard when you're in the middle of that chaos.
So define story for me. What do you mean? The reality is there's a mom and a dad and they're struggling with their little boy or girl, and that's it. They don't make the story up. It's very real. I have a friend who has an autistic child, and it was very difficult for him to just be in a car and go somewhere. There always had to be somebody with him to function at all. Like there's a driver and then there's somebody sitting with him in the car. Just sitting restrained in the car was a problem. He'd scream like crazy. What is the story about this? Like, I'm not understanding what you mean by story.
So what I mean by that is the story is a story. In the case of your friend, it's a child with autism. It's evidence. It's there.
It's a reality.
It's a reality. But make the story the one of all the great things he's accomplishing.
So focus on what he can do, where he is good at, even if he is screaming. I'm so proud of you for going with us and for looking out the window. Can you show me something, this type of thing?
Yes. Also, when you're talking to other people, talk about all the improvements. Talk about all the great things that are happening. The story, again, is the story of autism with your friend. Make it about all the accomplishments, all the great things that are happening, and don't focus on the things that are not important, like, oh my God, we've had this diagnosis, and it just keeps going on.
Oh, okay.
You need to flip it so that you're only talking about the accomplishments.
That can be that's a lot to ask sometimes, I would think. I mean, I know it's probably the best strategy, but for people who are just really struggling to deal with that, like, I mean, what can you say about that?
That's number one, and it's baby steps to change that. Number two, as a parent going through that, I know for myself, at one point I got very ill. So the second thing is, as a parent, take care of yourself. Whatever that is, whether it's NLP, whatever form that you choose, take care of yourself. Make sure you're in your best mental, emotional well-being. That would be another thing. And then to get the best types of resources out there for your child, whatever it is that you choose. Creating the story of success, it's like the laws of attraction. It is what you think of most is what you receive, and the little baby steps to try and change that thinking really, really does put the steps in motion to creating the magnificence.
You know, it kind of seems like, I mean, hypnosis, you know, when I was first saw it on cartoons as a kid, I thought, this is too good to be true in a way, right? And the NLP, I guess they're related, right? They're somehow...
Hypnosis is under the NLP umbrella as well.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's almost like when you see it working well, it seems almost too good to be true. And it says something, too, about the nature of reality and life and us in the world. I mean, it's almost like magic, but you're a practitioner and you've been through the training and this is your practice. So what do you have to say about, what does it say about, you know, the nature of life and reality?
Hypnosis,
and how it works. Yeah.
Hypnosis, first of all, has had a bad connotation. People don't really understand how it works. I like to give the example with meditation. People spend years trying to clear their mind, to get into that quiet, meditative, ultra state where you're just clear. With hypnosis, it's guided. If you're with a hypnotherapist or self, you're guiding yourself. And it is direct commands to the unconscious mind that are organic and ecological. So with my child, what I did is I just reinforced what he already wanted, to be happy and well-rounded and conversing, and that he was a leader and someone empowered, and that he was along his journey, and creating those metaphors that he was calm and peaceful. And as soon as that started to happen, I mean, it's a work in progress as he's evolving. That changed.
And that is very good to do before the child goes to sleep at night?
I find for myself, working with my own child, yes, it really changed. Or would you do it
during the day as well, in the morning or in the afternoon before homework or things like that?
I do. I will speak to him, but when he goes into full trance, it's usually before bed, because that's the time where that's our time together, before bed. As the kids that I find have these challenges, they're the easiest ones to help go into trance. They're wanting that connection to their unconscious mind.
So do you help the parents and the child? How do you work when people come and want your help? Do you teach parents these skills as well, and also the child, or how do you work?
So with the child, right now I'm working with a child who has, I'd say, moderate anxiety. This child does not have any other challenges, like there's no speech, it's just high anxiety. I work with her one-on-one to get those strategies in. I do hypnosis with her, and then I've taught the mom.
So, but mom is in the room with you when you do that, right?
No.
Or, no?
When I'm working with the child, it's one-on-one. Yeah.
Okay, so the parent feels comfortable enough with you.
Yes.
They have a rapport with you that it's one-on-one.
Yes. And then the hypnosis session, it's one-on-one. And I create a script specifically to her, or with my own child specifically to my own child, or with whoever I'm working with. I'm not an expert in children. I'm an expert in my own child.
Right.
I do work with kids. The thing that makes me want to get up in the morning is to lead other parents. Lead, stand up, see their magnificence. No one else will. And we were talking about this before. Everything you have in life, you can replace. If your house burns down, you'll get another one. Somehow, some way, you'll get another one. If it doesn't work out with your mate, you can always find another mate. You can move on. With everything in life, it's very much replaceable. With your children, there's no price that you can actually put on that.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
So to lead other parents, especially mothers, let's exchange resources. Let's get the strength. Stand up. In fact, I created a Facebook group in the positive intention of stand up for your child. If you're not sure how to go into a meeting at the school, we'll help you out with that. Resources. finding out what is the best thing to do for your child, little tips. How can we move forward? Believe in your child, because no one else will until you do.
Well, yeah, and that gives a child then the sense that somebody is kind of on their side and in their corner. What is the name of the Facebook group?
It's called Stand Up for Your Child. I just created it. And I have 4 other, myself included, we're 4 of us, that will be putting our blogs, answering questions. I have another colleague of mine from Edmonton, Tiziana Benvenuto. She raised her children. She has a child who is extremely intelligent and unique, and she worked and led in a corporate environment, so she'll be putting that aspect. Another colleague of mine is Carol Ayers. She is a holistic nutritionist who will be putting in a lot of tips on how important nutrition is, things we can do to change.
That was something I wanted to ask. How is our environment, our diet, how does that play a role in all of this?
It does. I'm not an expert on that. It's not my specialty, but I'm open to always changing things. And the third person is Melissa Mayer, who is a Reiki specialist. She does energy, chakras. So we're basically going to empower and throw the vibration through the roof to get people moving and totally going forth with their kids.
Now that's great for kids, but your practice, is it just focused on kids, or do you do NLP with anybody?
I do NLP mostly with the parents, women, a lot of women. My specialty mostly is parents because that's what I'm close to, but I work with everyone.
And what kind of issues might people be suffering or dealing with that you can help them with?
Sometimes people come to you and they don't really know what it is. They're just not achieving, or they're not happy, or they're not making money. And we always say, if you think you know what it is, it ain't it. So it's a matter of going to the deep-rooted structure. And once you've done one breakthrough, there's probably 2 more you can do on yourself.
So our logical mind is not really helpful in a stuck situation, is it?
No. Your conscious mind is 10%. It's the chitter-chatter. We need to go down deep into the vault.
So do we still have 5 minutes or so to do a little negative clearing to give people an idea how
do you want to do what would you like to do? Would you like to stack a couple of positive states? Would you like to try hypnosis?
How's it going to work? Are you going to work on both of us at the same time?
Well, why don't we see what hypnosis feels like? Would you like that?
Sure.
I don't think I'm going to get hypnotized.
No, I'm not going to hypnotize you. I just want you to know what it feels like.
Oh. You're just saying that, eh?
I sense a little bit of scary feelings there. But it's a relaxed state of relaxation.
There's just peace and happiness. There's no changing. There's no going into memories. It's just to see what it feels like.
Can you stack something good up for us here?
Do you want to do the Ring of Power?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, the Ring of Power.
He has power rings on his pinky fingers all the time.
But that's a different thing.
Do you want to? This is what we do typically with children with bullying. Okay,
sure.
So we need to stand up. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
So that will be good for parents to see as well.
All right.
Get our table straightened up.
Okay. So I want you to look at your hands. Mm-hmm. Pick a finger, and I'm not saying it in a bad way. Yeah. Pick a finger.
Yeah.
See, where's the finger? Show me.
Right hand.
Okay, good. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Put a ring on it.
Oh, it has one on, yeah.
Or do you want to create one? Because what if you're not wearing?
A ring on.
Okay, good. Does it have a diamond? Does it have a gem? Make it big, shiny. Make it anything you want it to be.
Okay.
Awesome. Do we see that?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's take the ring off.
Uh-huh.
Let's throw it down. And I want you to envision a circle around you that's about 3 feet all the way around.
Yes.
Do you see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. You got it? Good. Okay, you can put your hands down, just relax. So you took the ring off, throw it down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want you to remember a time where you were laughing hysterically that you just couldn't stop. You almost felt like you were falling over. Close your eyes. Can you remember a time? Can you remember a time? Can you remember a time where you were laughing hysterically? It was so funny. And as soon as you start to feel it, I want you to step into your ring. Step into your ring. Come on, step into the ring.
Yeah.
And as soon as it starts to subside, I want you to step out of the ring.
Uh-huh.
Good. Did it subside? Step out of the ring when it's done. Awesome. Let's do another state. I want you to remember a time where you felt so safe, cocooned in a blanket of safety and calm and peace. Can you remember a time? Good. Step into your ring. Awesome. And as soon as it starts to subside, you step out of the ring. Good. Good. Did it subside? Awesome. Okay, one more. I want you to remember a time where you felt so empowered that you couldn't believe what you could accomplish. It feels unbelievable inside. Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. And as soon as you feel it, step in the ring. Good. And then step out when it starts to subside. Good. So those were 3 states that we stacked into our ring of power. And then I tell the kids, you pick up the ring, put it on your finger, and that ring stays on there. And the second you go somewhere, either in the school system or you're going to a party or you're feeling nervous, you take your ring, you throw it down, you step into the ring, and you tell the ring, you will follow me until I put you back on. And that's how we stack positive states for children. It's called the ring of power.
Thank you. How do you feel?
Powerful. Powerful.
So everything is mind, yes?
Your mind is everything. Your unconscious mind is everything. Everything you do is a decision.
Incredible.
It is incredible, Hildegard.
So you feel...
Never mind how I feel. How do you feel? I already told you how I feel.
It's awesome. Yeah. It is interesting to note how just by going there into these states, how that emotion comes up. Everything we think about seems to be attached to feeling.
Yes, and we live our lives. Most people live their lives in negative state.
Yeah.
How often have you gone back and tried to re-win the argument? Trying to win it, even though it may have been 2 years ago. What does that do for your state of mind?
That's why we need to win it the first time.
Well, I get your point. So we are stuck in the past, really, quite often. And it's that unstuckness, or to get unstuck, is what NLP can help us do.
Yes, and it's a choice and a decision. And with children, I notice with my own son, the faster I could help him do with him to change those states, to be empowered, it will change his whole life.
Wow. So now for people that want to, maybe they're watching this and maybe they think maybe this NLP or working with you might help them, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
My website is www.anchoryoursuccess.com. And in the new year, we have great things happening. I will be partnering with 2 other practitioners. I'll be a trainer of hypnosis in December.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, and I'm doing trainings, workshops, so training others and certifying them through the American Board of Hypnotherapy. Once they've taken the certification, they can then apply. And I will also be doing self-hypno days, and I'm going to be creating a self-hypno for kids that are about 10 to 14, where they learn their own self-hypnosis.
So do you do like videos and things like that?
It's all coming.
It's coming?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm a little bit technology, what's the word?
Opportunity. You have
we know what you mean.
I have opportunities. I'm learning the technology. There we go.
Yeah.
Now, where are you going to do this? What part of town or what part of?
I work out of Vaughan,
okay.
Richmond Hill, and as the need arises, we'll keep moving. If we have to go downtown, we'll move downtown. It's about achieving the best. And if kids can learn it fast and young, imagine what they can accomplish.
So true. Well, thank you for being a stand for children. I really appreciate that because kids are close to my heart as well.
Thank you,
and I'm
gratitude.
sure many of our viewers feel the same way. And yeah, as parents as well. If our life gets better, we understand more, we can teach more, right?
Yes. I'm so grateful. Thank you. And for all parents out there, stand up with me. Let's do it together.
And go to that Facebook page, right?
Facebook, Stand Up, yes.
Yeah, so it's facebook.com/stand up for your child.
Yes, and then my website is anchoryoursuccess.com.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here, and
I
we look
appreciate
forward
it.
to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a little break here on Liquid Lunch. We're going to come back with our next guest. Going to be doing some really crazy stuff here on that channel.
A massage table and all sorts of things on.
We're going to get a massage.
He was transfixed.